Del Rio, Texas, Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive, recorded live, 23 August 2014. Episode 112. So Sharky. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Two Guys Who Dive, and I'm your host, Rob Wade, a.k.a. Scubadog, and Robert is out this weekend. As you probably are aware, especially if you have kiddos, everybody's starting to get ready for the back-to-school thing, so he's in the megalopolis of San Antonio, picking up stuff for the family so they're ready for school, as well as himself, because he's a law enforcement officer at the school district here, so he's getting ready for all of that. So it seems like forever since we've been here. But of course, if you're following on YouTube, if you subscribe to our channel, which I hope you do, you probably have seen, hopefully have seen our live from Belize, or not so live from Belize episode. We got back last weekend from our annual dive vacation. We went to the country of Belize, the island of Ambergris Caye, and had an awesome time, which we're going to talk a little bit more, actually a lot more about that here later in the episode. And of course, we got back so late, and that was a whole another story anyway. Got back so late, there was no way we're going to be able to do a show last week. And in fact, we were hoping when we did the show that we were going to be able to do the live streaming thing from Belize. But as it turns out, their internet service was dismal, to say the least. So we ended up just going with the option to record the show and then upload it. Well, that also had its own challenge because the internet speeds are so incredibly slow there. It took forever to actually upload the episode, which is several hundred megabytes. And at the end of the upload, it gave us an error from YouTube. So we weren't actually able to upload it. So rather than wrestle with that and take our minds off of the diving, as soon as we got back, I uploaded it so it was available the following weekend. So that was episode 111. The episode this week is called So Sharky. If you've seen the Shark Week advertisements from on Discovery Channel, they have this ridiculous but I think funny commercial promo for it. Of course, it's over now, but a really cool promo for it. That features Rob Lowe in an impossible situation where he's kind of riding two sharks and he's chumming the water, and it's hilarious. And of course, the windblown look, which really isn't windblown, and it zooms on him. And he says, "So Sharky," and the week for us actually turned out to be pretty consistent with that. We saw more sharks on this trip than we have seen on any of our trips before, so which you'll see in the video. It was just incredible to see this many sharks, and matter of fact, you're not seeing all of the sharks that we saw. I had to shrink the video as much as possible to fit it in a decent amount of time. As it is, it's going to take a huge chunk of our episode today, but that's okay. You watch this show to learn to see us talk about diving as well as other things, but of course diving is the big thing. But before we get into that, let's hit a couple of our normal little segments here. First one, movie reviews. We went to see Guardians of the Galaxy and Expendables 3. I grew up not a big Marvel Comics fan. with the exception of Iron Man. I like DC Comics better. Having said that, the movies on the DC realm have been marginal for the most part. The exceptions have been the Man of Steel, which I thought was very well done, although it was quite a departure from canon, and the Dark Knight trilogy. Those were excellent. And they're about to trash the whole thing by doing this Superman versus Batman. And I'm sorry, because Ben Affleck is in it, there's no way that's just trashed it for me. He's a horrible actor, I just can't stand him. So there's just no way in the world I'm going to go support that. Flip side, the Marvel stuff has been pretty consistent, although they haven't been without their own troubles. The Hulk has been a problem, and Spider-Man has been a problem. I never liked the Spider-Man character, and I've not liked the movies at all. It's just, I won't spend money on them. The Hulk, I thought the Hulk movies I thought were fine. They just couldn't come to grips with how they wanted to do it, so they kept changing things up. So we'll see what happens with that. But by and large, Marvel's done a great job with the franchise. And I think that comes from having a much better control over the franchise from the point of Stan Lee. I almost said Bruce Lee. He's been very actively involved to the point of having having his cameos a la Alfred Hitchcock. If you watched a lot of Alfred Hitchcock movies and series, he had a tendency to have his own cameos in the films, which were hilarious. So anyway, the Marvel franchise has done very well at the box office, as well as from a viewer standpoint. I really like the way they've handled it. The Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of one of those weird comics that it almost didn't seem like it belonged in the same universe. But interestingly, they decided to tie it in. If you watch the other Marvel movies, you saw where they had some hooks into what eventually would be components of this current movie. And we went to see it, and it was actually well done. It surpassed my expectations. I really wasn't expecting it to be all that great. The only actors that I really knew were the girl who plays I can't remember the characters because I never followed the comic. She was Lieutenant Uhura in the new Star Trek movies. She did a great job, although I'm kind of thinking she's not playing far outside of her normal character range, so she might be kind of casting the type. And her sister in the movie is played by Karen Gillan. I always pronounce her name wrong. She was Emily Pond in the next to the latest Doctor Who series, and I didn't even recognize her. She did a fantastic job. Of course, the makeup and everything really just kind of overshadowed her appearance, so you wouldn't necessarily recognize her right off. But she did a fantastic job, and it was a very enjoyable movie. A little bit of language and that kind of thing. Not really far outside the normal Marvel movies, so it was okay from that standpoint. But overall, a good movie. I'd give it a 8. Expendables 3. I liked the first two movies, but the nice thing about the first two movies is the language wasn't really bad, and it was just straight up violence because of the context of the movie. However, This one was way off the charts. I think there were quite a few of unnecessary f-bombs. It almost seemed like they were forced by the characters. You kind of expect that from Mel Gibson, who figures in this movie significantly. I think the surprise performance in Expendables 3 for me was Antonio Banderas. He was so against type in this movie. He really stole just about every scene he was in. And so I never I know I don't have not liked his movies before, but in this context I think he was written well and he played it well, and I got to give the guy kudos. He did a wonderful job and the movie was enjoyable from his, just because he did such a wonderful job. So he was kind of the comic relief, although of course he gets a chance to shine and it was pretty impressive. But I'm trying to think of another character in other movies, other types of movies that his character reminded me of. You know, kind of was the fancies himself the ladies' man and is always putting on those airs in the midst of craziness going on. Finds a moment to kind of a Gomez Adams feel to it, I guess. It was pretty cool. So definitely not a movie for the kiddos because of the violence and language, etc. So I definitely wouldn't bring the kiddos, although there were some there. I don't understand that. Why parents would bring their kids to see that movie. Just checking the chat room to see if anybody's in here. Take this moment to let you know, if you're watching the show live, make sure you jump in the chat room, join the chat room, and interact with us, because we watch that. And if you post questions or comments in there, we'll definitely respond to them. Just be aware that there is a delay. What you see on the screen is upwards of 30 seconds or possibly more because of the way the commercials dropped in. 30 seconds. What you see on the screen is actually 30 seconds after we've done it because of the way it's broadcast. So by the time you react to it and you post something in the chat room, it may be a minute or more before we see it. So, but I have no problem dropping back if it was a question from something I just got done talking about several minutes ago. So by all means, don't be afraid. Jump in there. Love to hear comments from you. You can drive some flexibility in the show just by your interaction with it. So anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy, again, a little bit of language. One of the characters slips the authorities the finger, so kind of be careful of that. Expendables 3, definitely for adults only. But it was a nice close for the trilogy, I guess, because I think they were only going to do 3. In tech news, I got my Surface Pro 3 finally. I was so excited. Of course, I think I showed a few episodes ago the keyboard that I got, but just in time for, and there goes the power. Just in time for our dive trip, I got the Surface Pro 3. I'll let you all take a look at it here. It's 12-inch tablet, so it's actually a tablet. Those mini things that you call tablets, no, those are like a notepad. They're like a little steno pad. So they should call those, mini pads or steno pads or something like that. But or notepads, note tablets or something. But those aren't. I'm sorry, those don't qualify. They're virtually useless as far as I'm concerned. The only value I see in those mini tablets is if they ever decide to stop doing the Windows Phone and would force me to, and this thing stops working, there's no way I'm going to use an Android smartphone. There's no way I'm going to use an Apple piece of junk. So I'll just go back to a feature phone that can do hotspotting. And so to have the features, the flexibility of a smaller device, I might go for the smallest version of Windows 8 mini tablet, just so I have this closer to this form factor because I have this form factor. A mini tablet's useless to me. I can do everything that I need in this size, or maybe a little bigger. 5-inch would be okay. And easily fits in my pocket. I can use it much more flexibly. But if I couldn't use that, if I didn't have that available, I would go with a mini tablet just so I had these features, and then I would just tether it to a feature phone. As it is, the Surface Pro 3, so you get the glare off of it. The Surface Pro 3 does not come with cell capability, and that's fine. Some people are like, "Oh, what use is that?" Because I have a Lumia device that has excellent capability to do a hotspot, both via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. I could connect with it Bluetooth, although obviously, why would somebody use Bluetooth? Because Bluetooth is so incredibly slow compared to Wi-Fi. Anyway, so I love this device. It's got a gorgeous screen. The type cover in purple, of course. The type cover is awesome. It's got a newer kind of capacitive pen, and it actually is pressure sensitive. So as you're marking on things, it senses the how hard you press. So it makes a thicker line or thinner line. And depending on the app you're using, like OneNote is the big thing. You can change it to various colors of markers and things like that. So it's excellent. The thing that's lacking at this point, and this is just, I'm sure it's coming down the road, is it's what I missed back in the old Windows Mobile days. Was I loved, you had to use stylus back then, a stylus with your PDA. I loved the transcriber on Windows Mobile because I could write in cursive, something that I guess they don't teach anymore. But I could write in cursive, and it would just convert it to regular type text. And so it was great. So I could write as fast as I needed to. It would convert the text down the road, and as I go. And I have a typable document. I have an editable document for later. I'm sure that's eventually going to come to these, and it needs to, because I still like to write things. And so this would be pretty much the perfect device for note-taking, purely because of that. I mean, as it is, you can write your notes and everything in OneNote and other apps, and it works great, but it just doesn't convert it to text. So anyway, awesome device, easy to work with. I love it. Go back and forth between Metro apps. I want to keep the glare off. You see, now it's basically taken over my the place my laptop had, because this now can do just about everything my laptop could do, but it does it. It's easy to remove the keyboard, and I can do all the things that I need to do with it, whether it's in a tablet form or the laptop mode. It's beautiful. It's got let me switch cameras here. Maybe this one would be better. No, you can't see that. This would be better. So as far as expansion, underneath the kickstand, which I love the kickstand. Underneath the kickstand, it's kind of hard to see. That's the micro SDXC expansion card. This thing evidently will support up to 2 terabytes of storage. I just don't know of anybody that's making a micro SDXC card that's 2 terabytes. And then you have your power connector there. It's magnetic, which is great. Makes it so easy to connect. Your USB 3.0 connector, and then your mini HD video port. So you can connect up your HDMI or VGA cable to that, and so you can view it on a bigger screen. Of course, they now have the dock for that, so it adds a lot more USB ports and other Ethernet ports and all this other stuff to it. I just love the way it feels, love the way it works. The only thing it lacks, of course, is a DVD drive, which is fine. And most of the time, I don't ever need it. I love how it goes together. And it's a heck of a lot lighter to carry than my laptop. There are still some cases where the laptop makes more sense. It has, the laptop I have has 500 gigabytes of storage, half a terabyte. So for doing like the mobile podcast, it makes better sense to use that because I can connect one of my HD cameras to it, and also be able to just checking chat room here. And be able to record it live as we're doing the show. In the case where we were in Belize, that made perfect sense because, as it turns out, we weren't going to be able to live stream it anyway. So having the hard drive space to store the video for later upload was perfect. So, but in 99% of the cases now, I can rely just on the Surface Pro. And it's an awesome device. I'm so incredibly happy I've got that now. So anyway, so I highly recommend it. The prices are going to be coming down on it. They will, just like they have on other versions. And I highly recommend the device. Let's see. Went on a dive today with one of the newer guys that I've started going diving with, Dave Hood, posted on our Facebook page. Again, check us out on delriodiveclub.com or check us up on Facebook, Del Rio Dive Club. And I posted that I was looking to do a dive, and he was the only taker, which is a shame because the weather was great for it. It was a little windy, but I was so surprised to see, here's Greza joining us. Here we go. Haven't seen you on the show for a while. You want to say hi to everybody? Yeah. Yes, it's my baby. They missed us while we were gone, that's for sure. Anyway, I was so shocked to see the visibility was actually really good out at Spur 454, Lake Amistad. And, that reminds me, there was some stuff I was going to bring in. I guess I'll show it to you next week. But the Spur 54, it basically takes you among other things in that particular area, is a cliff area that I love diving along. I love diving walls. And tons of people there. By the time we got in the water, we did 2 dives. We were kind of looking for a weight pouch that some other divers had lost, and a fin that another diver had lost. And we didn't find either of those, but there was tons of other things out there because people hang around the cliffs. They jump off the cliffs, and they forget that they have things in their hand or their pocket or whatever. And we found so much stuff down there, and because the visibility was so good, we could actually see things. Sunglasses, a skateboard. I'll have to show it to you next week. Clothing. Of course, tons of beer cans, etc. there because people are pigs. But let's see what else. I got a mask. It just needs to be cleaned up, but it was a perfectly good dive mask. So I'm gonna add that to ones that I have available for students in case they lose or forget a mask, and then some goggles and a few other things. But it's just amazing. Be careful when you go to places like that, what you have on your person. I was really shocked to find it looked like it was fairly new skateboard. Unfortunately, because it had been underwater long enough, the laminate started to break down, so the board itself is starting to separate on the edges. If you know anything about how the skateboards are currently made. And the trucks, the wheels spun, but not freely. Which tells me it was in long enough that the grease in the bearings has broken down, and so they'd have to be removed and repacked and all that fun stuff. And I don't know that I would trust the condition of the board to hold me up, but I was surprised at how I was like, what is a skateboard? Was somebody trying to skate off the cliffs or something? I don't know. It's not a boogie board. It's not a water board. So, but we found a number of things that were down there. Okay, so we were on our flight to Belize, and something struck me as funny they do their spiel on the aircraft, and of course, half the time you're not flying over water. But of course, in this case, we were flying down to Belize, which most of the flying that we did that day was over water. But it's so funny when they talk about the seat cushion beneath you can be in the event of a water landing. The seat cushion beneath you can be used as a flotation device, or in the event of a water landing, there is a inflatable life preserver, life vest underneath in the seat underneath you. And then they proceed to show you how you actually extract it and use it. And I thought, wait a minute, in the event of a water landing, in an airliner, that's not going to be a water landing. That's crashing. You don't, unless you've got an aircraft that has actual pontoons on it, you're not landing in the ocean. You're not landing in water. You're crashing. Even if it's a controlled crash, it's a crash. So it tickled me more as we heard it on all of our flights that, in the event of water landing. I thought, no, that's not a water landing. It's a crash. So anyway, that was kind of interesting. So it's just funny. Most people don't even listen to those, which is, kind of sad. They go through their spiel. They do their routine, the flight attendants. And most people are just still chit-chatting back and forth. They're not paying attention, or they've got their headphones on, or whatever. They're not paying attention to them. But it's amazing. If you listen, you might pick up things like that make you go, does that make sense at all? And of course, my understanding, we don't get to fly with Southwest, but it's my understanding with Southwest, they get jiggy with it and do all sorts of crazy stuff with their announcements, so keep it interesting. Don't quite know why the other airlines don't do something like that, because it sounds, among other things, I'm an actor. So, and I'm obviously an extrovert because I'm doing this show. I get bored, frustrated, disappointed when we go on these trips or go places where there's somebody who clearly has to recite a script. They recite it, and it happens in the news too. If you listen to on your radio stations, if you're listening to the person who's doing the news or the traffic and weather, and then they have to recite, this traffic, the traffic today is brought to you by some local whatever, and then they're reciting the spiel, the script for that commercial. But the way they break it up and inflect it, it doesn't even sound conversational. It doesn't sound like the meter of it is so boring and not believable. I'm like, you are so not enthusiastic about that. I was like, okay, this is somebody sponsoring this segment of your radio program, and you're reciting this like not even as exciting as the person who's speed reading through all these side effects of some drug that they're advertising on TV. I mean, those are read more exciting, even though they're like speed reading. Those are come across as more exciting than the people who do the commercials for the promoters of whoever's sponsoring a radio segment. And it's the same with most of these flight attendants. The way they recite it, I'm like, no wonder people are droning on. And so how do you know that anybody is paying attention to that? Because I can promise you, in the event of a chaotic event, most of those people totally ignored, don't remember, even though they've been on flight after flight after flight. Most of them they'll never pay attention to, and they'll just freak out, and there'll be panic, and so you'll have people hurt, killed, not from the crash or water landing, but just from people being stupid because they couldn't follow the directions that they weren't listening to. So anyway, boat etiquette. We noticed a lot on our dive vacation that there are people who are totally focused on themselves. The thing is, you're there to have a good time, yes, but the boat captain and the crew are there not only to provide you a valuable service because you're paying to dive with them, and they give or take, plus or minus, they do a good job of taking care of the customers. But because it's like flying an aircraft, there's safety things involved. Diving is a dangerous sport if you don't follow the rules, and those rules don't end when you finish your class. They go on. Additional rules pop their head when you're diving with a dive operation. They manage what's going on, and in order for them to protect you from yourself and from the potential dangers of the environment you're diving in, you need to listen to them. But unfortunately, there was this one woman on one of our dives. I kept mumbling under my breath, "This is the quintessential ugly American." I mean, this person was there in a foreign country, all about themselves, and they just simply were not going to pay attention to the captain. The captain is the authority on the boat. That's the person you listen to, period. Don't be... I'm getting a text.
Text from 1850
Oh.
532 2760.
Well, let's see. What is it?
Should I read it or ignore it?
I don't know who this is from. Maybe it was a wrong...
Text from 1850 532 2760.
I don't know who it's... I'll have to look at that later. Anywho, this person was a horrible example, or I guess a perfect example of what not to do on a boat. You don't want to be that person. You need to make sure you're paying attention to what the boat captain is saying, because they're describing safety features of the boat, things that you are not allowed to do on the boat, processes that they want you to follow on the boat, as well as getting out of the boat and getting back on the boat safely, because this boat is moving up and down and you can hurt yourself just entering and exiting the water, as well as paying attention to what they're talking about for the dive. They've been doing these dives over and over and over. They've got this down to an art form. And so they're trying to explain to you where they want you to be in relation to where they're at, what you need to stay away from, what you can engage. They're describing the dive. They're giving you the briefing. This person was not paying attention to him, was reaching down, looking, I'm trying to find my bag, I'm trying to get into my bag, was trying to get the attention of one of the other, one of the crew members on the boat to help her to get her bag, instead of, you know what, there's time to do that. We're on our way to the dive location. Listen to the boat captain. But she was just horrible. I mean, and consistently. And then when she's walking around on the boat, she basically would like push other people out of the way and kind of insert herself ahead of everybody on everything. And then when it came to do certain things on the boat that the captain had explained, girlfriend was, so how does this work again? And I'm thinking, you fool, if you'd have been paying attention, you'd know, because he described that more than once. But so don't be that person. Also, realize that when you're diving in a foreign country, they may have the dive operations there may have a few procedures that are different from how you're used to doing it in the States or your home country. Hand signals is an example. There are a number of variations on the ways that divers do certain hand signals. Some are somewhat universal, but for instance, a good example is numbers. Some people straight up do two hands. If you're describing, you have 2,200 pounds, they'll go 200, they'll go 22 or whatever. They'll do two hands. The way they were describing it on all the boat operations down there was doing the thousands on your arm. So if you had 1,700 pounds, you would do one, and then you have to do two hands for the 7. So 1,700 pounds. The way I teach it, and some other people that I know teach it, are kind of like what they use, often use in cockpit to cockpit in aircraft, is the single hand method. The reason I teach a single hand method is because you may have your other hand tied up with something. You're working a camera, you're doing a night dive, and so your other hand is on a light, and so all you have to shine your light on your hand so you can do your hand signals. Obviously, if you got a dive light and somebody's trying to get your attention and do hand signals, you've got to be able to see the hand signals in a night dive. The only way you're going to do that is shine your light on it. So you only have one hand. You can't do numbers as easily one-handed unless you know a good way to do it. So when we teach it, I teach it where you do, if you've got, let's say, 2,500 pounds, you go 2, 5. Let me do the other hand. 2, 5. So it's 2,500 pounds. If you've got 1,700, it'd be 1, and then you turn the 2 on its side. So it's assumed that you have a 5 there. So 1, 7, as opposed to 1, 2. So that way you can easily shine your light on whatever you're doing, and it's easy to do with one hand. But even though I am so used to doing that, because that's how I teach it, you may not be that. You may know a different way, and you need to pay attention how they're doing it. And you're not going to pick up how they're going to act, because they will ask you frequently how much air you have. So you have to pay attention to what they're doing, how they want you to do it. So please pay close attention to all the differences that you're going into when you're diving in another country, especially. Pay attention to the boat captain or whatever the dive operation is. If they're doing shore dives, pay attention to them. It's safer for you, and you won't look like the ugly American or ugly Frenchman or ugly Spaniard or whatever. Underwater etiquette. Similarly, if you follow the briefing correctly and you're paying attention to whoever's your dive master for the dive, they're going to be telling you certain things about how they want you to be diving in relation to them. They may say, I'm going to be leading the dive. Don't get ahead of me. Don't go below me. I'm setting your bottom depth. Or they may say, don't go above me. Or they may say, get down as quickly as you can right with me. That was especially important when we dove the blue hole, because that's a deep dive, and you can't spend a lot of your air and your tissue loading taking your sweet time going down. So if you're slow at equalization, diving the blue hole probably is not a good idea for you, because they expect you to be able to get down pretty darn fast, and we did, as you'll see from some of the video. Also, if you're working a camera, don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Don't be the one you get your camera in place and you're just acting crazy with it. I saw one person that had one of those GoPros. Great camera, especially if you're doing just about everything. But doggone it, he was acting stupid with it and could have endangered himself and his dive buddy. It's just crazy. So please watch what you're doing as you're diving. All right, so let's get into some of the video highlights of our trip, which hopefully you will enjoy. And this is even though it's about 20 minutes long, it's longer than normally we would throw on a show, but there was just so much, it's hard to whittle it down. I have a much longer version that I'm working on too, that I'll post it on YouTube, that shows a lot more of the stuff that we're doing. But it was incredible. We dove. We arrived Saturday, so we dove Monday through Thursday. Let me get the volume better. Okay. You see, like right off the bat, we're seeing nurse sharks. I mean, they were everywhere, and so I guess they were just so comfortable with us. And then there's an eel. kind of hanging out, watching what's going on. Remora, pardon me. I've never seen them not attached to a shark or similar. And this was remarkable. I mean, I have footage where it was just hanging around. It was kind of like the pervy turtle. And there's my lovely wife, Tara. At 82 feet, you don't even feel like it. Dive leader up there above us. We came up to the top and there was another shark. I mean, you see they were just everywhere. There's Tara. She's just so relaxed. And to think that not that long ago, there was just no way we were going to get her in the water. There's me. Okay, this is where we're heading off the deep end, the blue hole. Now this girl that was in front of me, and yes, the water's warm enough that you could just do the bikini thing, or swim trunks, whatever. Me, I just like having added protection. But you see, she gets to a point where she was having some issues equalizing. Because we were trying to go down so fast. So she's trying to work through those issues. Meanwhile, there's the diver way below. But I didn't want to zoom past her because that just freaks people out when I do that, especially in a dive like this. Now the blue hole it used to be a cave. It was above the water and then it collapsed. And so you'll see I'm at 85 feet. So she's coming back up to handle the equalization. And so there was stalactites and stalagmites down there, which are now covered with coral. But it was just amazing. This day, which was a 5:30 to 5:30 thing, was worth the entire trip for me.
This is bucket blue egg. This is bucket blue egg.
113 feet right there. Okay, signaling, okay, level off. Don't go any deeper. There's Tara. This is the deepest that she's ever been diving. There's me. Okay, we're now heading into the wall area. So got stalactites and stalagmites. So I turned on my light, my video light. So we're at 134 feet at this point. Had to get the selfie in there as I'm in the stalactites, stalagmites. see girlfriend finally made it down. This was just absolutely spectacular. Tell the less experienced divers skull a lot, which is they use their hands to move around. The only time you may need to actually, if you've got good control of everything, the only time you really need to do that is to spin around in a tight area. You don't want to kick up a bunch of silt. Okay, now what was cool is we were coming out of the stalactites and stalagmites. We got to see our first Caribbean reef sharks. GoPro. Really conscious. There we go. I was like, oh, hello. I mean, this was just amazing. You know, you see nurse sharks, and they're no big deal because they don't eat. They're not man-eaters. They just eat small stuff. That is my dive computer beeping at me. I've got mine set to let me know if I'm within 10 minutes of my max tissue loading. See these guys just cruising around, checking this out. A shot of Terra right there with them in the background. It's just so cool. So you just, you know, hear all these shark attacks and stuff, but, you know, you don't mess with them. They don't mess with you. If they don't perceive you to be a threat, they don't do anything. And there's a barracuda. He just comes right up behind our dive leader. Again, you don't mess with them. They're not going to come around and mess with you. This was our second dive of the day. There was a Caribbean reef shark there. She lost her do-rag. Always look inside these big barrels, coral, just in case you see like little tiny shrimp in there, some really colorful shrimp. You know what's interesting, of all the fish that we saw here, there were a number of species of fish, etc., that we normally see in abundance, let's say in Cozumel or Grand Cayman, but scarcely at all here. Now, interestingly, lionfish are all over the place in the northern part of the Caribbean. You know, as you move up to Cozumel and Grand Cayman, etc. I think we only saw a couple, and I get a little bit of a video of one, I think, here. But it's just not a big problem yet here. Just look at the drop here that goes several hundred feet. This was cool. I'm doing a selfie, and then I notice as I'm panning it back out, look back and there's Tara. Just check to make sure she's okay. She always hangs a few feet above me, so she actually ends up having more air in the night. So I'm like, this was cool. The camera doesn't do justice to how beautiful those are.
Look once more.
I love seeing the large schools of fish.
Do you remember? 2, 1, 3. This is a big blue egg. This is a big blue egg.
And there's another reef shark right there. I was like, oh, it's like right there. He's like coming right up beside them. They had no clue. It was cool. It was like, and then it swings back around, and so you see the one diver is like signaling, hey, 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 look, look, look. Love that shot. It's one of my favorite shots. I think I cut it short here, but he comes up and then there's another one that comes to meet him. And then they both turn around and head off into the distance. Love the angelfish. Love those. Saw a number of turtles. I think we saw more turtles here than we've normally seen. And there's one you'll see a shot of a little bit later that's huge. This one was a pretty good size. This one was about the same size as the Hervey turtle that we featured on one of our other episodes from a dive in Balmoral State Park. Was a little bit larger. And these were some spotted eagle rays. I thought it was just two, and then this one splits out. You can hardly tell. Then there was three of them. I was like, wow, this was awesome. They were pretty good distance below us. and I happen to look over and see an eel come out on his way elsewhere. Now this was the big turtle, and this was just such a shock. I was like, man, he's coming right at me, and you can actually hear him tap my camera. Right there. And see the coral or barnacles and stuff on him. I mean, that's how old this thing was. On some additional footage that I have that's in the longer version of this video. You see our dive leader by this turtle, so you get a better idea how big that is. Now this was cool. I was like, what in the world is this shark doing? It's a nurse shark. And I saw more of it than I got on camera. I mean, this thing was like thrashing on its back. Now this was cool. I normally don't get a shot from underneath them. We're coming through a little swim through. So let's get a shot of Tara. I actually got a shot of a number of the folks on our little dive, but for this version I just wanted to focus on Tara. There's our dive leader. Tara the camera so she can take some video of me diving, because I do all the work. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to let you do the work. I love these. This is Tara. This is footage from Tara shot. She did a good job. No, I normally man the camera, but she did a good job. She had a good eye. Little squirrel fish. That is one of her big joys. She really likes those anytime we see those. And you see quite a few of those normally. It's a pretty common species. But they're just so neat because their eyes are so huge. I don't think they look anything like a squirrel, but... And this was awesome. Actually, I have more footage of this that I'm showing here, but this is the closer up. I mean, I was swimming pretty hard to catch up to this guy. But this was just probably my best shot ever of a spotted eagle ray. Thankfully, he wasn't moving very fast, but just beautiful, beautiful. So graceful. And this was a different one we saw. This was one of the two lionfish we actually saw. And yet another nurse shark. Here's a line. Again, I've got so much shark fish because these were just everywhere. It was truly so sharky. Shot over my shoulder at Tara. She's flashing gang signs. No, I'm just kidding. And of course, you know you're jaded when you're annoyed because a shark gets in your way of getting a shot of an eel. I'm going to zoom. fish. I just think they're so cute.
This is a big blue egg.
Shark cruising by, and I love the large schools of fish. I didn't see very many of these type here in Belize. It was great to get this shot. Trumpet fish. I normally see tons of those everywhere else. This was the only trumpet fish I saw the entire week we were there. Saw quite a few lobsters. Ate quite a few lobsters. Man, I have never eaten so much lobster. And I got spoiled. I am just so incredibly spoiled now. It's hard to come back to Del Rio and eat just a bunch of Mexican food. I'm like, I could live without it now. Well, I'm not a big fan of Mexican food anyway. You give me a life of seafood and I'm a happy camper. This is an example of coral bleaching, where if you this is why we tell people don't grab a hold of the coral, because you can kill it. It kills the organisms, so it just bleaches it out. And yet another throw. This one was a pretty good size too. Not as big as that one that I got the close encounter with. And this was a smaller one, just cruising through a little canyon. Hightailing it pretty good. Saw a lot of the groupers, and this just was such great lighting and a shot. I was like, okay, I just gotta get this. Some of the stills that we'll probably put together for next week's episode, I have good shots of Elkhorn. My lovely wife here. It's got one of those shots. Style shots, just cruising underneath it. Shot of me. See ya. And we had the dive leader take this shot of us. This was our, we're coming up on our 25th anniversary. I wanted to get this shot. It is just so cool to be able to share this with my wife. As a matter of fact, I just talked to, I met a guy today who's going through pilot training here at the base, and he's an instructor. He's actually an instructor, but his wife is not certified, and they're going on a trip to Belize, as a matter of fact, in November. And so he was asking me if I was an instructor. I said yes. He doesn't want to instruct his wife. And I guess instructing your wife in scuba diving is kind of like trying to teach your wife to drive. That can be an easy thing, or it can be a very difficult thing. And so if it's going to be a difficult thing, often you want somebody else to do it. My wife learned to drive a standard with somebody else helping her, and so now she's an old hat at it. It's easy for her. But she felt kind of intimidated, I guess, with me trying to teach her. So I guess he doesn't want to be her instructor. I actually taught my wife her advanced course. She did well with it. There's no issues there. But I understand his point of view. So he's asking me if I had a class coming up, which I do, and so hopefully she can get in on that. She'll get certified. So I was like, well, we can definitely tell you about Belize because we just got back from there. So hopefully you'll be able to check out the video if he's not watching. I don't see anybody in the chat room, but if he watches it later on YouTube, then he can kind of get an idea what to look forward to. And she can obviously see what to look forward to. But it's really cool to have somebody you can share that with. Especially if that's your significant other. And we finished this trip, came back on the Saturday, and then Monday was our 25th, our silver anniversary. 25 wonderful years together, and sharing the passion of diving is definitely a highlight. It's just something you just see. You see just how much fun it is, and it's relaxing. And it's hard to get angry at each other when you're underwater because you're surrounded so much beauty. Although we did see some people that were like, okay, that looks a little rough between those two underwater, but it's just a lot of fun to do that. All right, running a little bit long. Maybe I should save that. I'll save some of the rest of this stuff. I'll tie. I was going to give you some things to remember as an international traveler, especially if you're a diver, and some other helpful hints as you go to these places and you're diving. I think I'll save that for next week. Tie that with some stills because we want to show you just a few really good still shots of things that we took underwater, as well as pictures and some video of on land, so you can get an idea. Well, if you're going to go there, all of your time's not going to be spent diving. You're going to be doing other things. You're going to be eating a lot. We ate a lot. Love restaurants. Matter of fact, I'll give you a few recommendations. I'll probably repeat those next week as well. But you'll be, obviously doing some shopping. So there's tons of shopping to do. This T-shirt I'm wearing is an example of that. Picked up a number of things, and just learning some unique things about the place you're going. In this case, Belize. So real quick, restaurants that we recommend from if you're going to find yourself in Belize on vacation. Warragumas. It is a bright green, or at least right now, it's a bright green place on one of the main streets close to just off the beach. All of the places there kind of look like, which you'll see in pictures next week, all these places kind of look like hole in the wall. If you've been to Mexico, it will look somewhat similar. Very tightly packed, many places without AC. Warragumas is one of those. No AC. They have these fans, oscillating fans mounted to the ceiling to help kind of move the air. So a lot of people who've been there frequently have a tendency to just get stuff to go, and they go back to their room where they have AC and they eat in comfort. I like the heat, so I was perfectly fine just kind of enjoying being in the environment. But they have two lobster tails and all the fixing for an incredibly reasonable price. It's like $15 US. It was just you spend that in the States just for a puny single one and some stuff. It was just awesome, and just everywhere we went, there were great food opportunities. But if you like lobster and you don't mind the heat, no air conditioning, kind of open window, open door area, go to Warragumas. Bright green place, can't miss it. The food is great, it's well prepared, very tasty, and you just can't beat those prices. Wet Willie's, it's out on a pier. You just walk along the sand, and a lot of these bars and restaurants are right there on the beach. And Wet Willie's is actually out on a pier, and it's owned by a couple of Americans. And what was neat was they have, obviously some local cuisine, but they also brought some cuisine with them as far as ideas, and just great food. And service was, I will say, a little bit they were focusing on other things because they were doing a little bit of work on the place, but so they could have been a little bit more attentive as far as service, but the food was reasonably priced, and it was excellent. Their what was it called? It was basically a baked, like a pan cookie with ice cream on it. It was fantastic. Fido's. Great decor. Very rough looking, very ocean oriented. You see anchors and stuff like this. You'll see pictures of it next week. They had it was very relaxed, open air environment. It actually has like its own little shopping plaza inside too, and some offices, 2-story area there. It's kind of interesting setup. They have a stage that do like a local band on certain nights. We weren't there during that time. We just typically did late lunch, early dinner kind of thing there. But Fido's was again very reasonable prices. Their hamburgers were good. It's just very good food. Very good food. We enjoyed that, and the service was top notch. I mean, they are like right there, taking care of things. It was awesome. Lily's was good as well. Another place right there on the beach. Pineapples is part of Ramon's Dive Village, and that was one of the places that we were actually looking at staying when we ultimately chose Sunbreeze Hotel. We'll talk about that next week, I think. We'll show pictures. But you will see from the pictures next week of Ramon's was exquisite. It was like going to Gilligan's Island, where they've developed it all with that theme. It was great. But Pineapple's a little pricey as far as the food, but very, very, very attractive. Open air environment. The food was excellent. Service was great. Definitely recommend you do that. And obviously, you're gonna eat there probably at least once or twice if you're staying at Ramon's Village. Adela's Dine by the Sea was also very good. I think we will have some pictures from that as well. I think, if I remember correctly, Caliente's as well. Great food. I think Adela's was where we did a breakfast. They had what was it? Was it Adela's? Had these big, monstrous breakfast burritos. And Tara and I were able to share the one because it was so huge. It was the largest thing I've ever seen as far as a breakfast burrito. There's no way, unless you are somebody with a bottomless pit for a stomach, there was no way a single person could eat all of this. It was huge. So restaurants. So again, recap: restaurants we recommend if you go to Belize, if you're on Ambergris Cay, Warraguma's, Wet Willie's, Caliente, Blue Water Grill, which was the restaurant that we stayed at. Again, that one was very pricey, but the food was excellent. Lily's, Pineapples, and Adela's Dine by the Sea. Awesome stuff. All right, let's hit some administrivia before we tag out here. Oh. Wow. Pastor Mike has joined the chat room here. Let me respond to him here. If I can get my finger to... I should wash my hands before I work on my tablet. You like that name, do you? He was commenting on Wet Willie. Yeah, it was... And you'll see some... If you watch next week, you'll see some pictures of it. Pastor Mike, you need to try out diving. I know that's not your cup of tea, but I think you might be surprised at yourself. I'm assuming you can swim. That's an important capability if you're going to be a diver. But even if you don't, here's the thing about doing, before I jump into the administrivia, the thing about going to these places, you can go if you're just a snorkeler, or if you just want to lay on the beach. Personally, I just think that's a waste of the trip for me. I just can't see just snorkeling or not even doing that. But we actually, when we did the Blue Hole, we had a number of people on the boat that were there just to snorkel. So they were just going to be on the upper rim, the edge there. And then when we did the other 2 dives as part of that trip that day, they were just snorkeling. So you can go to these really nice tropical places, and as long as you're not afraid to get a little sand between your toes and get out in in the salt air, you can have a good time anyway. You can still enjoy yourself, just enjoying just basking in the sun or sitting under a nice shady palm tree or any of these open air restaurants. It's very relaxing and beautiful. It's well worth the trip. There's so many people that they spend their lives in one place. They don't go anywhere, or they always go to the same place over and over. And life is about more than that, and God made a big earth that's got a lot of things to it, and it just seems a shame to limit yourself from seeing more of his creation. And I'm just so thankful that Tara and I can actually go out and see these sites, whether it's in the continental U.S., like going up to Balmoral State Park, which is beautiful, or going to Belize or Grand Cayman or Curacao or any of these places. It's worth it to get out and do it. You can go. Yes, some of these things cost a lot of money to do, but they don't always have to. Especially if you're military, you can catch hops to a lot of places. But just go out and do and see and try. And certainly if you're not afraid of the water, if you can swim, I just don't understand why somebody wouldn't want to at least try out diving. Might not be for you, but it really is an opportunity to go out and experience the different life that you see underwater. Meet some new people. We had the people staying in the hotel room next to us were from Spain. Now the husband and wife, the father and mother, really could speak almost zero English. Now, fortunately, in Belize, even though the official language, why can't we get an official language of English? But Belize their official language is English, but they do speak Spanish and a couple of other like Caribbean type languages. The reason why their official language is English because up until 1981, they were the British Honduras, and then they gained their independence in '81 and became Belize. So anyway, they the people that were staying in the room next to us, they were doing all their diving with us on the same boat. Now their daughter, who's like 19 years old, spoke some English. She was pretty good, but she kind of had that Antonio Banderas accent, going. She would kind of work through some words, kind of having a little bit of a struggle, but and it became kind of our interpreter when we wanted to exchange any information with her parents. But it's neat meeting people from all over. Some you may not like, some you may not click with, but some you may. And just being able, and we talked to a number of people. We ended up sharing one day of diving with a family where interestingly, the father works for American, but he actually was a pilot in the Air Force back in my day. He went through pilot training at, I think he said Columbus Air Force Base, but was interesting. He knew of some events that were going on at Laughlin back in the 80s that we were actually talking about. So it's a small world. You never know who you're going to run across that has things that you can talk about, that you have some common things you can talk about. And you just don't avail yourself of that opportunity if you just stick close to home. So, and to me, there is no better way to get exposed to those kind of situations than to be an avid diver and go out and do stuff. I've met more interesting and more not so interesting people in my life because of diving. and you learn new things, and you learn about people. It's just an opportunity to share. And it's so worth it. All right, let's jump into the administrivia real quick. We started to do that. Our next dive club meeting is the 18th of September at 7 p.m. at Rudy's Restaurant. Love to have you there for some great food and just have fun and talk and maybe plan some dives. We got one dive class left after the one for this month, which obviously it's too late to join this one. I've got a couple who is going to be in this class next weekend. So our last official one for the year, although obviously I can schedule anytime I want, September 25th through the 29th. So I'll probably have at least a student in for that one. If you need air fills, go see Mike McCarson out at Broke Mill RV Park out on Highway 90 West. If you're heading out towards the lake from Del Rio and you get just past where they're finishing out or extending the new loop around Del Rio, immediately on the right, you'll see the entranceway for Broke Mill RV Park. And he's got the big cascade system set up there. Just give him a call ahead so he knows you're coming because they don't have somebody manning it all the time. So just give him a call at 830-719-2935 and he'll get you hooked up there. If you want to get in touch with us, we definitely would encourage you to watch the show and interact live like Pastor Mike is doing there. But check us out on the webpage, delriodiveclub.com, or like us on Facebook. Just look for Del Rio Dive Club. We're pretty active on there as well. Or you can send us messages through Skype. Just look for TGWD. WD stands for Two Guys Who Dive. And if you would like to conversate with me, you can send me an email at robert.wade@cetifox.net or follow me on the Twitter. I warn you ahead, I'm pretty prolific Twitterer, and but I'm an activist, okay? Conservative guy, if you couldn't tell already. So I tend to post a lot of political stuff, but not just that stuff. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, you just look for @RobertCFP. I would like, if there's anybody in the Del Rio area who is maybe, especially if you're a diver, prefer a diver, not afraid to talk with me on a show like this. I'm looking for other people who can also co-host the show with me. I'll never leave you hanging. I can usually drag anybody along if they're halfway open to talking, but Robert has a tough time sometimes being on the show. Well, obviously you can see I can talk my head off to a wall, talking to cameras, 3 cameras here. I would like to have other people to bounce things off of and give them an opportunity to talk. So if nothing else, just give my voice a rest. So if you're in the Del Rio area and you're a diver and you think it might be fun to step in and do something like this, even just on a part-time, every once in a while basis, just send me an email or give us a buzz, leave a message on Facebook. I'd like to get more people involved in co-hosting the show. So, and that's a co-host, which means you don't have to do all the work. I'll probably be doing the lion's share, but I'll show you how to do it. It's really easy. You just get on here and talk, have a good time, and love to see you. Love to see you on the show, and have your friends drop in and comment about the show too. So just let me know. Send me an email. Send us a message on Facebook, and we'll get you going here. Again, we do this show every Saturday at 8 p.m. Usually like to kind of do the show prep before, so showing up 15, 20 minutes ahead of the show is definitely better, so we can kind of get any pre-production stuff out of the way, make sure cameras are working for you and everything. It's really tough at the last second when somebody shows up, trying to get the camera aimed properly and focused. But so if you show up a little early, it'd be better. But again, if you think you might want to try your hand at this, it's not that difficult. It really isn't, and it actually is a lot of fun. We've had a number of guest hosts in the past, and not a single one of them has had a bad time doing it. It's just, it's a little bit of a commitment, to do it every so often, especially if you're doing it every week. So, yeah, just give us a call or, send us a message. We'd love to get you involved. So that pretty much covers for this week. Next week, like I said, we're gonna pick up some of the things that we didn't get to today, like the some of the tips for those who are traveling to these exotic wilds for dive vacations. So give you some helpful hints traveling internationally as a diver, help you out. We'll also show you some pictures, some snapshots of underwater as well as on land and the beautiful island of Ambergris Cay, part of the country of Belize. And we'll probably give you some map orientation of what exactly we were doing and where we were at. So kind of get a better context if you're looking to go to Belize for a dive vacation, which I can't recommend enough. It's number 2 now on my favorite places. Is now it has kicked Cayman out of number 2. Curacao was my number 1. Cayman was my number 2, but this is now my number 2. So, well, listen, that does it for today. Pastor Mike, glad you could jump in there, even though it was at just the last second there. Enjoyed having your questions, comments on there. And those of you who are watching and just lurking in the background, glad to have you. Would love to have you chat with us online so we can actually interact with you. But if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. Check our Facebook page out, like it, and try to catch us live. We'd love to interact with you. And if you have any questions about the show or suggestions, love to hear it. And so just get in contact with us, and we'll do what we can to satisfy you, the customer. So that's it for this week, and we will see you next week on another exciting episode of Two Guys Who Dive. See ya.